Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question today. Do the people in your life truly value you? Do they cherish your presence? Or do they only call when they need something? Too often we find ourselves chasing relationships, trying to fit where we were never meant to be. But I want to tell you something straight from the heart of God today. If someone wants you in their life, they will make room for you. You don't have to beg for a seat at the table where God never placed you. You don't have to force a connection that He never ordained. Because when God brings the right people into your life, there is no striving, no pleading, no endless waiting. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:24 that there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That kind of relationship is built on love, trust, and commitment. Some of you today are holding on to people God has already released you from. You keep knocking on doors He has already closed. But I want to tell you, God is not the author of confusion. 1 Corinthians 14:33. If someone truly values you, they will not leave you wondering. Jesus never begged anyone to follow Him. He said, "Come, follow me," and those who were meant to walk with Him did. Some walked away and He let them go, not because He didn't love them, but because His purpose was greater than their approval. My friends, stop chasing after people who make you feel like an option. Stop fighting for a place where God never meant for you to stay. Instead, trust that God will bring the right people into your life at the right time. When God writes your story, you don't have to force the chapters. Let go, trust Him, and walk in the confidence that those who are meant to be in your life will be there, not because you begged them, but because God placed them there. If someone truly values you, they will make room for you in their life. This is a truth that is often ignored in a world where people chase relationships, seeking validation in places they were never meant to be. How many times have you found yourself wondering where you stand in someone's life? How often have you questioned if you matter to someone who seems too busy, too distant, or too indifferent? But let me tell you today, you do not have to beg for a place where you rightfully belong. You do not have to force a connection that is not meant to be. When someone values you, they will make it known, not just in words, but in actions. Life is full of relationships, friendships, family bonds, romantic connections, but not all of them are built to last. Some people enter your life for a season, while others are meant to walk with you for a lifetime. The difference between the two is simple. Those who truly value you will create space for you in their hearts, in their schedules, and in their priorities. They will not leave you questioning your worth or your place in their life. Their actions will speak louder than their words, and their commitment will be evident. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:24 that there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And this kind of friend, this kind of relationship is one that is rooted in love, loyalty, and sincerity. It is not built on convenience, nor does it waver in times of trouble. When someone truly cares for you, they will not make excuses for their absence, nor will they allow life's distractions to take precedence over the relationship. They will make time, because love makes time. Look at the example of Jesus. He was a man who walked with purpose, surrounded by multitudes, yet He always made room for those He loved. He dined with sinners. He stopped to heal the sick, and He called His disciples by name. He never ignored those who sought Him, and He never treated anyone as an afterthought. He made time for those who desired to walk with Him, but at the same time, He never begged anyone to stay. When the rich young ruler turned away because he couldn't part with his wealth, Jesus let him go. Not because He didn't love him, but because love is never forced. Some of you today are holding on to relationships where you constantly have to prove your worth. You wait for phone calls that never come. You send messages that go unanswered. You rearrange your schedule for people who wouldn't do the same for you. And yet you convince yourself that maybe if you try harder, if you give more, if you hold on a little longer, things will change. But the truth is, when someone values you, you will never have to chase them. You will never have to beg for their attention, because they will freely give it. They will honor your presence in their life, and they will make the effort to keep you there. People make time for what matters to them. It's as simple as that. When someone says they're too busy, what they really mean is that something else is more important. We all have responsibilities. We all have obligations, but no one is too busy to show love. No one is too busy to care. Even in the busiest seasons of life, People prioritize what they value. A mother makes time for her child no matter how demanding her schedule. A husband makes time for his wife no matter how tired he is. A true friend picks up the phone even when they have 100 things to do. Love does not neglect. Love does not overlook. Love does not leave you wondering where you stand. So why do we settle for less? Why do we accept one-sided relationships, friendships where we are always the ones reaching out, connections where we are treated as an option rather than a priority? Perhaps it is because we fear being alone. Perhaps it is because we hope things will change. But my friend, you deserve more. You deserve to be surrounded by people who celebrate you, not just tolerate you. You deserve to be loved with the same depth and sincerity that you give to others. And if someone cannot make room for you in their life, then perhaps it is time to let go. Jesus never forced himself into anyone's life. He offered his love freely, and those who truly desired him followed him willingly. In the same way, you should never have to force someone to value you. The right people will make room for you. They will cherish your presence. They will show you in both big and small ways that you matter. And when you find those people, the ones who love you without condition, who respect you without hesitation, who make time for you even when life is busy, hold on to them, because relationships built on genuine love and mutual effort are a gift from God, and they are worth more than anything this world can offer. There are moments in life when we find ourselves desperately trying to hold on to people, places, and situations that were never meant for us. We plead for attention. We fight for acceptance. We lower our standards just to fit into spaces that were never designed for us. But the truth is, God never intends for you to beg for a place where you don't belong. He does not call you to chase after people who do not value you, nor does he expect you to force yourself into places where you are only tolerated rather than cherished. So many of us have experienced the pain of rejection, the ache of feeling unwanted, the sorrow of knowing that no matter how much we give, it is never enough. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just prove our worth, then maybe they will stay. Maybe they will see our value. Maybe they will finally treat us the way we deserve. But that is not how God works. God does not require you to strive for the love and acceptance of people. He does not ask you to diminish who you are just to be welcomed by those who refuse to see your worth. Throughout the Bible, we see example after example of people who tried to hold on to what God had already removed. One of the most powerful examples is found in the life of Saul and David. Saul was the chosen king of Israel, but because of his disobedience, God rejected him and chose David instead. Even after David was anointed, Saul fought to keep his position, resisting God's plan. He chased David, tried to destroy him, and refused to let go of a throne that was no longer his. But in the end, no matter how much Saul fought, he could not change God's will. The kingdom was never meant to remain in his hands. In the same way, when something is not meant for you, no amount of striving can make it yours. Some of us are chasing relationships that God has already removed his hand from. We are clinging to friendships that have run their course. We are staying in places that are draining us rather than strengthening us. But God never intends for you to beg for love, for respect, or for a place in someone's life. The right people will see your worth without you having to prove it. The right doors will open without you having to force them. The right opportunities will align without you having to compromise your values. Jesus himself never begged anyone to follow him. He extended an invitation, and those who were meant to walk with him came willingly. When the rich young ruler walked away because he was unwilling to let go of his possessions, Jesus let him go. He did not chase after him. He did not try to persuade him. He did not beg him to reconsider. He simply allowed him to make his choice, because love is never meant to be forced. If someone has to be convinced to stay, then they were never meant to be there in the first place. God's plan for your life is far greater than anything you are trying to hold on to. He has relationships that will uplift you, not drain you. He has places designed specifically for you, where your presence will be celebrated, not merely tolerated. But you cannot receive what he has for you if your hands are still clinging to what he has asked you to release. Letting go is not always easy. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it feels like losing. But what if what you are losing is only making room for something greater? What if the rejection you are experiencing is actually God's protection? What if the closed door is leading you to the open door he has been preparing all along? When you trust God's plan, you no longer have to beg for love, for acceptance, or for a place where you do not belong. You can walk in confidence knowing that what is meant for you will never have to be forced. The relationships that are meant for you will not require you to prove your worth. The opportunities that are meant for you will not demand that you compromise who you are. And the places that are meant for you will welcome you with open arms, not hesitation. God does not operate in confusion. He does not keep you in a place of uncertainty, wondering where you stand in someone's life. He makes things clear. He gives peace where he wants you to be and removes peace where he does not. So if you find yourself constantly fighting for a place in someone's heart, if you feel like you are always the one trying to keep things together, it may be time to step back and ask, is this where God truly wants me? Because where he wants you, you will never have to beg to belong. The relationships that truly matter in life are not built on convenience or temporary emotions. They are built on love, trust, and commitment. In a world where many people come and go based on what they can gain, true relationships stand the test of time because they are not rooted in selfishness. They are not based on what is easy or beneficial in the moment, but on a foundation that remains firm even when circumstances change. Love is not just about feelings. It is a choice. Trust is not something that happens overnight. It is built through consistency. Commitment is not dependent on convenience. It is a decision to stay even when it is difficult. When people base relationships on convenience, they are only present when things are easy or when there is something to gain. They show up when they need something but disappear when it is time to give. They celebrate with you in your success but are nowhere to be found in your struggles. They walk with you when the road is smooth, but abandon you when the journey gets rough. These kinds of relationships are not built to last because they lack the essential elements that make relationships strong. When love is real, it does not waver based on circumstances. When trust is present, it does not require constant proof. When commitment is genuine, it does not fade when things become difficult. God designed relationships to reflect his love for us. His love is not based on convenience. He does not love us only when we are at our best or when we have something to offer. He loves us in our weakness, in our failures, and in our struggles. His love is patient and unwavering. In the same way, the relationships that are truly meaningful in our lives should reflect that kind of love. They should not be dependent on how useful someone is to us or how easy they make our lives. True relationships require effort, sacrifice, and dedication. Trust is one of the most valuable aspects of any relationship. Without trust, there is no real connection. It is easy to say that we trust someone when everything is going well, but real trust is tested in times of difficulty. When misunderstandings arise, when mistakes are made, when challenges come, trust is what holds relationships together. It is built through honesty, through keeping one's word, through being reliable. It is not something that can be rushed, and once broken, it takes time to rebuild. That is why relationships based on convenience often fall apart, because they lack the depth that comes from true trust. People who are only there for their own benefit will not remain when trust is tested, because their commitment was never real to begin with. Commitment is another key foundation of relationships that last. It means being willing to stay even when it is not easy. It means working through differences instead of walking away. It means valuing the relationship enough to invest time, energy, and effort into making it strong. In today's world, commitment is often overlooked. Many people look for the easy way out when things become difficult. Friendships end over small disagreements. Marriages fall apart because people stop trying. But true commitment does not depend on how convenient something is. It remains steady through ups and downs, through struggles and victories, through seasons of joy and seasons of hardship. Jesus showed the greatest example of love, trust, and commitment. He remained faithful even when others abandoned him. He loved even when it was not returned. He trusted in God's plan even when it led to suffering. His commitment to us never wavered, even when we failed him. That is the kind of love that we should strive to reflect in our relationships. It is not a love that is based on selfish desires or temporary emotions, but on a deep and lasting foundation. Relationships that are built on convenience will always be fragile. They will fail when things get tough because they were never built on something solid. But relationships that are built on love, trust, and commitment will endure. They will grow stronger through trials. They will bring peace instead of uncertainty. They will be a source of strength instead of a source of pain. The right relationships do not require begging, chasing, or constantly proving yourself. They are freely given, nurtured with care, and protected with devotion. When love is real, when trust is strong, and when commitment is unwavering, relationships become what they were always meant to be, a reflection of God's enduring love. Jesus never begged anyone to follow him. He extended an invitation, but he never forced anyone to stay. He never pleaded for acceptance, nor did he chase after those who walked away. Instead, he moved forward in his purpose, knowing that those who were meant to follow would do so willingly. His focus was never on convincing people to choose him, but on fulfilling the mission that God had given him. In the same way, we are called to walk in our purpose without begging for validation or seeking approval from those who do not recognize our worth. Throughout his ministry, Jesus encountered many who were drawn to him. Some followed him eagerly, while others turned away when his teachings became too difficult to accept. When the rich young ruler came to Jesus asking what he must do to inherit eternal life, Jesus told him to sell all that he had, give to the poor, and follow him. But the man walked away sorrowfully because he was unwilling to let go of his wealth. Jesus did not run after him. He did not try to persuade him to reconsider. He let him go because he understood that true discipleship is a choice, not something that can be forced. Time and time again, Jesus demonstrated that his mission was not about seeking human approval. When large crowds gathered around him, he spoke the truth boldly, even when it was not what they wanted to hear. Some marveled at his wisdom and power, while others criticized and rejected him. Yet he remained unwavering in his calling. He did not change his message to keep people from leaving. He did not compromise to gain popularity. He stayed faithful to what he was sent to do. This is the example we are meant to follow. Too often, people find themselves chasing after the approval of others, trying to fit into places where they were never meant to be. They seek validation from those who do not truly value them, hoping that if they try hard enough, they will finally be accepted. But Jesus never operated that way. He never begged for love, for attention, or for a place in someone's life. He knew his worth, and he knew that his purpose was far greater than human validation. Those who truly belonged with him recognized his authority and followed him willingly. There is freedom in understanding that you do not have to convince anyone to see your value. You do not have to beg to be chosen. You do not have to fight for a place where you are only tolerated rather than celebrated. When you walk in your God-given purpose, the right people will recognize it. They will appreciate you, not because you demand it, but because they see the light within you. And those who do not, let them go, just as Jesus did. Walking in your purpose means being confident in who God created you to be. It means not settling for less than his best for your life. It means refusing to waste time trying to prove your worth to those who refuse to see it. Jesus understood that his mission was not about pleasing people, but about fulfilling God's plan. He faced rejection, betrayal, and even crucifixion. Yet he never strayed from his calling. He stayed faithful to his purpose because he knew that his obedience to God mattered far more than the opinions of man. Many people struggle with the fear of being alone, believing that if they stop chasing after others, they will be left with nothing. But Jesus showed that it is better to walk alone in purpose than to be surrounded by people who do not truly support you. He was abandoned by many, even by his own disciples at times, yet he never allowed that to distract him. He remained steadfast, knowing that his identity was not defined by who stayed or who left. When you embrace your purpose with confidence, you stop trying to force connections that are not meant for you. You stop watering relationships that no longer grow. You stop allowing fear to keep you tied to people, places, and situations that no longer serve God's plan for your life. Jesus walked forward, never looking back, never begging, never pleading. And because of that, he fulfilled his purpose and changed the world. You were not created to beg for love, for friendship, or for opportunities. You were created to walk in the purpose that God has set before you. Those who are meant to walk with you will walk with you. Those who are meant to leave will leave. And through it all, God will be with you, guiding your steps, strengthening your heart, and leading you toward everything he has prepared for you. Letting go of the wrong people is one of the hardest yet most necessary steps in life. It is difficult to release people we once held close, especially when we have invested time, energy, and emotions into the relationship. But the truth is, not everyone who starts with you is meant to stay with you. Some people enter your life for a season, while others are meant to walk with you for a lifetime. Holding on to the wrong people only takes up space that God intends to fill with the right one. Until you let go of what is not meant for you, you cannot receive what he has prepared for you. Many times people stay in relationships and friendships that drain them rather than uplift them. They hold on out of fear of loneliness, fear of change, fear of the unknown. But God does not want you to settle in relationships that are not aligned with his purpose for your life. He wants to bring the right people, those who will love, support, and encourage you. However, he cannot do that if your hands are still full of relationships that no longer serve his plan. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about making room for better. The Bible teaches that God removes and replaces according to his perfect plan. Abraham had to separate from Lot before he could step into the fullness of God's promise. Jesus himself had to endure the betrayal and departure of Judas before fulfilling his greatest purpose. Sometimes separation is a divine setup for elevation. When God removes someone from your life, it is not always a loss. It is often protection. He sees what you cannot see. He knows the hearts of people. He knows who is meant to stay and who is meant to go. Trusting his plan means being willing to release what he has asked you to let go of. One of the greatest mistakes people make is trying to force relationships that God is trying to end. They hold on to toxic friendships, one-sided relationships, and unhealthy attachments, believing that if they try harder, things will change. But God does not call you to beg for love, for respect, or for a place in someone's life. The right people will make room for you. The right people will value you. The right people will stay not because you force them to, but because they want to. When you let go of the wrong people, you make room for peace. You make room for joy. You make room for relationships that are built on love, trust, and mutual respect. You begin to experience what it means to be surrounded by people who truly care for you, who celebrate you, and who bring out the best in you. You stop wasting time on people who drain your energy and start investing in those who uplift and strengthen you. God's plans are always greater than anything we can imagine. He knows exactly who needs to be in your life for you to fulfill your purpose. Sometimes the wrong people stay too long because we're afraid to let them go. But when you release them, you open the door for divine connections, people who will support your vision, encourage your faith, and walk with you through every season of life. Walking in faith means trusting that when God removes someone, he is making space for something greater. It means believing that his plans are good, even when letting go is painful. It means understanding that not everyone is meant to be part of your journey forever. Some are lessons, some are blessings, and some are stepping stones to something greater. No matter the reason, when God says it is time to let go, it is because he has something better in store. Letting go does not mean you stop loving or caring for those who leave. It simply means you trust that God's will is better than your own. You do not have to chase people. You do not have to force relationships. The right people, the people God has for you, will come into your life and stay, not because you begged them to, but because they are meant to be there. When you make room, God will fill that space with the right ones at the right time in the right way. Trust him and let go. And watch him bring the people who truly belong in your life Trusting God's plan for your relationships means believing that His wisdom far exceeds your own. It means understanding that He sees the full picture while you only see a small part. So many people fall into the trap of seeking approval from others, shaping their relationships based on the fear of rejection rather than faith in God's plan. But the relationships God intends for you will never require you to constantly prove yourself or strive for validation. They will be built on love, trust, and alignment with His purpose. Seeking approval can be exhausting. It often leads to compromising values, overextending yourself, and staying in places where you are only tolerated instead of truly valued. The need for approval can make you hold on to people who were never meant to be permanent in your life. It can cause you to chase after relationships that drain you rather than uplift you. How y'all doing? But when you trust that God's plan is greater than your need for approval, you stop forcing connections that were never meant to last. You learn to let go of relationships that no longer align with His will. Jesus never sought the approval of others. He loved people deeply, but He was never controlled by their opinions. He knew that His purpose was not to please man, but to fulfill the will of His Father. Throughout His ministry, some people accepted Him while others rejected Him. He did not beg anyone to follow Him or change His message to gain favor. He stayed true to His mission, knowing that those who were meant to walk with Him would do so. This is the same mindset you must have when it comes to your relationships. The right people will recognize your worth without you having to convince them. The right relationships will not require you to beg for acceptance. God's plan for your relationships is built on His perfect knowledge of what is best for you. He knows the people who will help you grow, who will strengthen your faith, and who will stand by you through every season of life. But He also knows who will hold you back, who will drain your energy, and who will lead you away from His purpose. Trusting His plan means surrendering your desire for human approval and allowing Him to guide your relationships. It means choosing His will over your own preferences. It means being willing to walk away from what is comfortable in order to embrace what is truly meant for you. One of the greatest struggles people face is letting go of relationships that no longer serve God's purpose. It is easy to hold on out of familiarity, out of fear of being alone, or out of the hope that things will change. But God does not call you to cling to relationships that are not part of His greater plan for your life. He removes certain people not to hurt you, but to protect you. When you insist on keeping people in your life who are no longer meant to be there, you block the blessings that God wants to bring. Sometimes separation is necessary for elevation. Trusting God's plan also means embracing His timing. There are moments when it feels like certain relationships should work, but they fall apart. There are times when people leave unexpectedly, and it feels like a loss. But what if that loss is actually making space for something better? What if God is removing what is not right so He can bring what is? His plan is always greater, even when you do not understand it in the moment. He knows the relationships that will bring you closer to your purpose, and He is always working things together for your good. When you stop seeking approval and start seeking God's will, your relationships begin to change. You no longer settle for friendships that are based on convenience rather than commitment. You no longer strive for attention from people who do not truly care for you. Instead, you walk in confidence, knowing that the people meant to be in your life will come not because you forced them to, but because God placed them there. God's plan for your relationships is not based on temporary emotions or fleeting approval. It is rooted in His divine purpose for your life. He desires relationships that are built on genuine love, mutual respect, and spiritual growth. When you trust Him, you stop chasing people and start embracing the relationships that truly matter. The people He brings into your life will not require you to constantly prove your worth. They will see it, appreciate it, and walk with you in faith. Letting go of the need for approval is freeing. It allows you to experience relationships that are built on authenticity rather than performance. It removes the pressure of constantly trying to be enough for people who were never meant to stay. When you surrender your relationships to God, you find peace in knowing that He will always bring the right people at the right time. His plan is greater, His wisdom is perfect, and His love for you is unshakable. Trust him, and he will align your relationships with his divine purpose. So walk in confidence, knowing that God's plan for your relationships is far greater than your need for approval. Let go of the burden of trying to fit where you don't belong. Stop chasing validation from those who cannot see your worth. Trust that the right people, those whom God has ordained to walk with you, will recognize and value you without hesitation. When you surrender your relationships to him, you will find peace, clarity, and a deeper understanding of his perfect will. Let his plan unfold, and you will never have to beg for the love, respect, or presence of those who are truly meant to be in your life.